Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the most recent round of nerfs to the Elemental Shaman tier set that will be made available next week with the release of the new raid, Aberrus the Shadowed Crucible. Now, these nerfs actually went live on the PTR last week, came out on Friday, but I'm just now talking about it now, almost like a week later from when this happened and when I'm recording this. I'm only just now talking about it now because I wanted to collect my thoughts on it. I didn't want to just immediately come out with a video purely reactionary and very emotional, probably, and just have a very doomer take to the whole thing. So I wanted to sit with it, talk to some people about how it actually affects the spec, and just have a more well-rounded approach to talking about it. So with that being said, if you haven't heard yet, basically our tier set got cut in half at the last second. So instead of getting 2 charges of Stormkeeper every 50 seconds, we're only going to be getting 1 charge of Stormkeeper, and then our Maelstrom generation, after using Stormkeeper, instead of getting 75% increased Maelstrom from our single target builders, we're only going to be getting 50% increased Maelstrom generation. And that was down, like I said, from 75. And then at the beginning of the PTR, it was actually at 100. And then at one point, we got 2 charges for Stormkeeper every 40 seconds. So since the beginning of the PTR cycle to now, we have less than half of what we started out with. So let's go ahead and just talk about that for a little bit before we just go crazy and doom about how bad Elemental's going to be all of a sudden. Let's pull back a little bit and like talk about this in perspective. So first and foremost, it's important to keep in mind that prior to this most recent round of nerfs, from what I was hearing from the people who actually work on the sim data, and I understand that sims are not everything, but Elemental Shaman was one of the best, if not the actual best single target class or single target spec in the game. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. So we were already in a very good spot. I don't know exactly how much higher we were than everyone else, but we were either very close to the top or we were actually at the top before these nerfs. On top of that, our tier set was the most powerful tier set for any other class and spec in the game as well, from what I understand. So it was about a 20% increase to not having a tier at all. If you just had baseline gear, getting that tier increased your single target damage by 20% in a sim environment, which is a huge number. 20% is a huge amount of extra damage from just getting, you know, this additional green text activated, essentially. So that was it was a very, very, very powerful set. So there's 2 things to kind of think about, and there's 2 different lines of thought here. Like for the way that I play the game and the content that I engage in for Mythic Plus and Raid, I'm mainly concerned that the game is at least balanced once everyone gets their 4-piece, their 2-piece and 4-piece. That's kind of like where I care about the most. So as long as it's balanced around that, I kind of don't care, you know, like where that actual power is coming from, but I can understand the argument of the tier set shouldn't be that powerful. The class should be able to do fairly good damage on its own, and the tier set is just giving you that extra boost. So I can definitely understand that take as well. So the idea here is that we're losing all of this damage for single target, but we're not actually getting it made up anywhere because we didn't get any compensation buffs for this nerf. So what does this actually mean? Where are we sitting now with these sims? Well, these sims are not 100% done yet from what I have seen, but from where it's looking and where most people are projecting is it's going to put us somewhere in the middle of the pack for damage or lower middle. It's really hard to say, and that is just really unfortunate. Like, obviously, I know that everyone was getting really gassed up about, like, is this going to be Elemental's tier? Unfortunately, that probably will not be the case anymore. Like, being middle of the pack, even with not bringing a raid buff, and then more importantly than that, Enhance is looking to be more powerful in pure single target, at least from a sim environment. I do have to keep stressing that we are talking purely in simulation environments here. The raid is very melee unfriendly, or at least somewhat melee unfriendly, so range should do better overall, at least just with uptime and not having to get off the boss nearly as much as melee does. And that should be about the same throughout the entirety of the raid. So looking at sims isn't the only metric that you should be looking at, but people are going to look at that and just think that, oh, well, Enhance is better in sims, so Enhance is the better class, and it also brings Wind Fury Totem. And that's the one thing that I was hoping we'd get away from, is this idea that what's the point of playing Elemental when Enhance exists, which is where we exist right now. People just assume that the only good spec of Shaman to bring for damage is Enhance, and in some degrees they're kind of right, in the sense that, you know, if you're really overvaluing Wind Fury Totem, then that's yeah, we just don't bring anything. I mean, that's the end all be all of this. It's really hard to justify a below middle of the pack DPS that brings nothing. Like if you were the only, priest in your raid, at least you're bringing, PI and Power Word Fortitude. If you're the only warlock in your raid, at least you're bringing Healthstones, Gateway, Summon, all of that stuff. And then Elemental Shaman's just sitting here with Ancestral Guidance, Windrush Totem, and again, both of those things are brought by the other two Shaman specs as well, but Resto brings Spirit Link Totem, which in some situations is really, really good. I haven't seen any real situations where that's going to be ultra powerful here to be mentioned as something that's a super niche thing that makes Resto super good. I haven't found any of those situations yet, but it might exist in this raid. I'm not 100% sure. But Wind Fury Totem is always good as long as you're bringing other melee. Elemental just has nothing like that. Just nothing, no reason to specifically bring Elemental. And in the way that things are looking right now, if nothing changes, you cannot give me a reason why you would want to bring an Elemental Shaman to Aberrus the Shadow Crucible over a Demonology Warlock. That just does not exist. There's no reason where you're we don't need another Demonology Warlock. We need at least one Elemental Shaman. This just doesn't exist. But now I will say, I want to pull back here. We're talking at a higher level of play than the average guild. If you're good at playing Shaman, if you want to play Shaman, if you enjoy playing Shaman, then just do that. Play Elemental. I keep saying Shaman, but I'm talking about Elemental, obviously. But if you enjoy it, then you should play it. That's kind of the end of the end all be all. If you can play it well, you can make any class and spec in the game work. Unless you're getting into the top 0.1%, it's really not going to hold you back. The thing that I'm concerned about more than anything else is the community perception of Elemental Shaman. That was the one thing that I was hoping would we'd even the boat out and maybe get the community to start feeling like Elemental wasn't this giant hindrance on your group for if you were pugging a raid or doing Mythic Plus. It's mainly more disappointing for the pug world, which I do engage in quite a bit when it comes to Mythic Plus. So that's the thing that I'm probably the most disappointed in, is that I highly doubt we're going to get away from that negative community perception. People throw out words like competitive and viable. Is Elemental competitive and or viable? Yeah, it's definitely competitive and viable. It's also, if you can play it well, you'll be able to get good damage out. How often do you play, especially during Prog or something, are you playing doing an 80% parse and then someone has a 40% parse and maybe someone has a 7% parse, in your raid? If you can outperform people around you, then you can perform on any class. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be playing the meta classes as long as you can play your spec correctly. So that will continue to be the case. It takes a lot to make a class actually just straight unviable. And so we will be viable, we will be competitive. It's just we won't have anything extra to say this is the reason to bring an Elemental Shaman. The reason will have to be because the guy playing it is good. That's the only real reason to bring an Elemental Shaman over something else. Now, I will say, at least in Mythic Plus, again, let's kind of pull this in a little bit, just not get too doomy about it. Shaman in general, and this is more of a Shaman thing, not so much an Elemental Shaman, but Shaman still brings Lust. Shaman still brings Poison Cleanse Totem, which will actually become useful going into this next tier, especially with the new affixes with Afflicted. Very good with that. We do have a CC in Hex, which will be good for the Incorporeal affix as well. So we do have things that will help out with these new affixes, and we do have a generally good kit. And a lot of times, especially in Mythic Plus in the Pug world, you kind of have to compare yourself to the other Lust classes. So are we going to be better than Hunters? Are we going to be better than Mages? Stuff like that in Mythic Plus. I'm not 100% sure where that's going to all level out. The problem there is, again, the direct comparison back to Enhance. If Enhance is better than Elemental, again, for Mythic Plus, then we're once again still facing that negative community perception. So in summary here, just to kind of wrap everything up, if you've listened to me ramble for this long, basically the takeaway is it's not great. I'm really upset that they nerfed us so hard, taking off and I don't think I ever said this, but it's going from the tier set giving us about 20% additional damage to 10% additional damage. It's basically cut in half. and it was replaced with nothing. And anytime a class gets nerfs by 10%, that's going to be a huge effect. So it's really unfortunate, but we'll survive. Just don't expect us to be, considered to be one of the better classes this tier unless something else changes. I'll probably make another video super late again if we get another round of buffs. So just make sure you're paying attention to those things, and hopefully we'll be in an okay place at least. That's what we're hoping for now. We're hoping to be in an okay place at this point, which is just it's really disappointing from where we were to get knocked down so far, especially like in a situation where I would not be surprised if nothing changes right now. I would not be surprised if Limit and Echo in the Race to World First are bringing 3 Warlocks, if not 4. I legitimately would not be surprised. Now again, that can change, and I know that some people are like, God, you shouldn't care about the World First guilds, what they're doing. I don't care what the World First guilds are doing. I clearly don't, because I'm playing Elemental Shaman regardless of how good it is. The thing is, people see what is happening in the Race to World First and will draw opinions and conclusions from what they're playing. And when you see like 4 Warlocks or just the fact that there isn't an Elemental Shaman, people are going to draw those conclusions and just say this class sucks because it was not represented in the Race to World First. Obviously that's not true, but people will see that, and that does feed into that community perception in a negative way. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now. Warlocks are looking insane right now across Demonology and Destruction. And then on top of looking insane, they still bring all the utility that Warlock brings. Whereas Elemental Shaman looks mid and brings nothing in a raid environment in terms of like useful utility that couldn't be covered by someone else. So yep, that's where we are right now. I'm going to try to stay really positive about it. We can make it work. We can pray for more compensation buffs. But looking kind of mid right now, unfortunately. It was looking so good. We were so close. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I will be getting around to making guides for these videos. I know a lot of people have been asking me to make guides for the pure single target build and then for the Mythic Plus builds as well. The reason why I've held off for so long is because of things like these nerfs. These things can change and completely alter the landscape. And the last thing I want to do is come out with a video that you can't really edit after you've released, and then something that completely changes what I wrote in that video, and my choices are either take down the video or just create another one, but then I can't really leave that old one up because of the fact that will just add into the misinformation in the environment. I would prefer to just wait a second and make sure it's right the first time I release it. Just keep in mind that written guides are much easier to edit and to change as things are changing. So keep your eye out on the written guides. Go to Storm, Earth, and Lava. Check out the Icy Veins guide. Check out the Wowhead guide. All of those guides are upkept by people who are very intelligent and know the class or know the spec very well. So keep your eye on those written resources as well. But I will eventually come out with a video. I'm just waiting for the dust to settle a little bit more. But anyway, that's pretty much it for today. I wish I had better news. We can hope for more in the future. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. I do stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Redmark, so feel free to go check me out there. Give me a follow there. That'd be great. Feel free to give me a thumbs up on this video if you thought the video was good. If not, then don't. That's fine too. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And other than that, guys, I will see you in the next video.